Hey folks, Steve here with a different sort of video for you today. This video is kind of a long time coming. I've thought about doing this video for a long time. I debated on the format, should I be on camera for it, and I just decided we'd just do it a little bit snappier. You know how I like to talk. So I was going to run through the cold, harsh reality that is my shelf of shame. Now, as far as playing games goes, I'd like to think I'm actually pretty good. I used to keep track of which games I own were played versus unplayed, and I'm proud to say that I am over 50%, though I think the highest I was at was maybe like 70, and I've acquired many games and haven't played as much. That's probably dropped quite a bit more, but I do have a pretty good track record for playing the stuff that I do get, though I have a bit of a backlog. When you think about that, I mean, I know a lot of gamers have that problem, right? It's easier to get games than to play games, to learn games, teach games, and play them, and all that good stuff. And so, as it relates to kind of talking through that, I did want to talk about my top five shelf of shame games, the games that, while I've done a good job overall for my game collection playing them, just simply have escaped me and I feel the worst about. So this is a sort of a countdown, and it is increasing order where, the last game I'll talk about in this video is the one I feel the worst about not playing. And I'll go through each of these and kind of describe why. Maybe if you're watching this, you don't ultimately care. That's okay. This is a oddball video. But at least for me, it'll help kind of convince me that I should play these games soon. Maybe not right away. I've got other stuff that I really do want to play sooner, ultimately, because they're fresh in my mind and I've got plans. But I cannot escape the need to play these, and I need to do it really properly. Some of these would be played on camera for the channel, so that's something that I'll be thinking about into the future. So, top five. I do want to call out a what do they call it? They almost made the list, but honorable mentions. Honorable mentions. So I'll get one honorable mention out of the way right away, and say that I really should have been playing Der Weltkrieg a lot more. Now I'm just showing the Tannenberg introductory game and the Grand Campaign box that links all the games in the series. I have all the series games of Der Weltkrieg. I've read the rules over a number of times, though I could always use a refresher. I think I will enjoy it, but I've just not gotten to playing it. I had gotten a really good deal from someone in the local gaming community for the whole series at a very, very reasonable price. I have then messed around in Vassal, but I don't really count just messing around and fiddling with a game, a play. That doesn't count to me. So technically, I don't have this really well played. I do have, I guess you guys can't see it, I do have the counters punch for the introductory game, because I got this first, actually, before diving deeper. But even then, I've only fiddled with this and not really even played it, solitaire or otherwise. So because of my love for World War One and as a topic, and that this plays pretty well as far as I'm told, and based on what I can see in Vassal and kind of relating the model of the rules in my head, this seems like it would be quite fun, and I do intend to play this, especially now that I'm getting into OCS and I can see some similarities in some of the design, dealing with supply and spending supply for certain purposes. Obviously, a different system, it's a different way of doing it, but it is on my mind as a really good go-to operational World War One system. Obviously, I've enjoyed all the Ted Racer World War One games that I have that are operational. It'll be interesting to see how these compare when I get to it. So honorable mention, I don't feel too terrible about not having played these yet, if only because it's a pretty big undertaking to just play through any of these series if you go for a campaign game, which I don't think I would recommend based on my understanding, but there you go. So that's the honorable mention, but we'll go with number five. This is a game that I got not too long ago. I do feel bad that I haven't played it yet. This is Balance of Powers. This is another World War One game. So this is a hex and counter game by Compass Games. Here's some things about the aesthetics of the game that I don't like. Even the counter design I don't really like, but I like World War One games, and I like strategic World War One games. So this has been one that I got not too long ago, but just the subject matter, like I kind of feel bad I've not gotten this out on the table to see how it compares to games that I already really like Fatal Alliances. Um, the naval system seems okay. It's an okay abstraction level. Again, I think there's stuff that I won't like about it, but I feel like I really owe this game some time, and I just haven't done it yet. I feel bad for that, and so it's number five on the list. Number five. Will uh, probably cover this at some point, um, but I really wish there was a second edition with different components. I'll say that much, but we'll see this one into the future at some point. Number five on the list. The next game that we'll talk about, and I guess I'll start setting these games elsewhere. Next game, this is where I start to feel quite bad about these games that I haven't played. This is Pendragon, Fall of Roman Britain, game designed by Morgane Guin-Reddy, and uh, there's a story to why I haven't played this one. I absolutely adore the game package and all the contents of the game and the subject matter. I think the playbook has excellent, really cool reading. I spent a lot of time reading through all the materials in the playbook, the historical notes, all that good stuff. But what happened as to why I've never actually truly played it was that when this game came out, I was still living in an area where I was nearby my friends who played coin games. So ultimately, there was this expectation that I would get to play Pendragon with my coin friends and my friends who like to play coin, and we would do it up, and we were going to have a good time with it. But what happened was we met the one Saturday to play Pendragon, and we took for granted that we were sort of experts at coin. We felt very comfortable with the system. We played a lot of the other games, Fire in the Lake, A Distant Plane, all of that. But Pendragon just had these additional systems that going in cold to try to just set up and play the game without doing due diligence and reading the rules first and really knowing what was going on, we bounced off of it and we ended up deciding just to play. I'm trying to remember which one we played. Maybe it was Cuba Libre. We decided to play instead that day, just because we had limited time, and it was like we were going to spend more time trying to figure out how to play this than actually playing it. And so we didn't, we shelved it. We said we'll get back to it. We'll spend some time. But then my family, my wife and I, we moved quite a little ways away from our coin friends that we don't see as much anymore. And we just never had an opportunity to really try to play this again. And in my current gaming cycle where I'm playing solo, like I could play this as solitaire with bots, but I don't know. I just don't like playing coin with bots. It's a lot more fun with human players. And so for that reason, this has remained unplayed, number four on my list. It could have been number three on my list. It was really tight with number three, and I feel so bad because I think Morgane has designed a cool uh, a cool game around this time period and the way the mechanics work. And to me, it's just a utterly impressive design in that it manages within the context of the coin system show the sort of devolution of Roman power in Britain and the system of government and kind of where the power lies. A really interesting shift that I think in a lot of games, like it's hard to portray that in a game without just having this hard bolt, like weird system to it. Where like I think the system that she came up with worked really well uh, for uh, for what it was portraying. And like there are other games that do that kind of well. I think Successors does it kind of well. And that's like a whole other topic. But so like this is to me is like a tragedy that I haven't played this yet because I think I would really like it. I like the subject matter. I really like the reading materials that came with the game. I read through all of that cover to cover. But the game just never got played. So it's on the shelf of shame. I feel bad. I will get to it someday. Maybe at a convention will be the best place to do it. But yeah, that's number four. Number four could have been number three. My actual number three is with Blitz. So this game was designed as sort of a new player, well, I guess a less complex version of World in Flames. It started with hexes and it eventually morphed into area movement and a whole lot of other rules that really make it not much like World in Flames. I guess, like in terms of the mechanics, the actual rules are quite different from World in Flames because it's just, if you look, like that is just very different looking from World in Flames itself. The counters look very different. There's just a whole lot of different stuff, but it is meant to fit in the same design sort of ethos of World in Flames and what, in terms of World in Flames, is trying to portray. So David Lelacheure's design here is actually pretty neat. There's a lot of interesting tidbits to it. Now, I have technically fiddled with this. I have moved counters around. I have tried out things, but I've not properly given any particular scenario a huge amount of play. So I count it as unplayed, even if I fiddled with it. And what makes this one worse, and kind of why it beat out Pendragon for the number 3 spot, was that I have spent extra money to get a enlarged version of the map printed off with some custom graphic on it to improve gameplay. That is how much I really would like to play this game, is that I spent extra money on getting that printed at some expense. And the time that I will play this will be very much enhanced beyond the base game. But I've just not gotten it to the table. There's just been other stuff going on. So I never, if I've spent more money for it, you would think I would be playing it, but I just haven't gotten to it. So I feel bad. I would like to run through this. There's a lot of good play reports online of people playing this and showing the strengths of the system. There are some oddities in the system that I'm not sure really how I feel about it right now. But I really do want to give it a roll. And I know that Dave has been working on sort of like a sequel replacement game for this that runs World War One through like potentially World War Three, that uses a lot of the same systems and is just adapted differently. And I'm really interested in that game as well. I don't know when we're going to see it, but even just this, I really do need to, get rolling and tackle this. There was some errata. I've tried to keep up with the errata and all of that, but just needs played. Yeah. So, brings me to number 2. Now, number 2 is Pax Romana from GMT, designed by Richard Berg. Quite a ways, many years before his passing. This has been around for a while. I have a second printing, deluxe edition. This is another one where I've gone to extra expense for this game. I have hunted down the C3I issues that have additional counters. For a time, I had created my own counters to go with those scenarios because I couldn't find the magazines, but I eventually worked my way to finding copies of those magazines and the counters for them, and they're inside the box now. Tracking it down, so I have the complete, like, every scenario that could be played, every counter that's needed is in the game. It needs a 3-inch box because there's so much content in this box. It's like heavy, it's solid, it's bulging at the seams. But the truth is, I've not really properly played it. Now, this is another case of me fiddling. I have fiddled with the game, sure, but I have not properly played a extended scenario to any level that would be considered an actual playthrough. And what's sad is that I've had this game nearly since I got into the hobby. Very early in me getting into the hobby did I pick this up, and it hasn't been properly played. Now, it's a fairly complex game. I didn't have at the time many people to get together with and play this with. That'd still be difficult now, but I feel like I could play this solo. So there's certainly an element of, like, I could do this on the channel. And in fact, if some of my Wheel of Destiny rolling had gone differently and we were going to play an Ancients game, this would have been the game that I would have picked. Now, I have read through stuff for this game for a very long time, so while I've not played it, there's a lot I already know about it and I appreciate about it. And it's just going to come down to actually playing it. And I've got scenarios picked out that I want to try. It would take a while to play through, but I definitely think this one is worth it. I really appreciate what the game tries to do. Maybe not a perfect game for how it does what it does, but I just think it's a very interesting way to execute a historical game that runs from 300 BC to 50 BC. The name doesn't make any sense. It should not have been called Pax Romana. I do not know why they chose that name. I think that is a very poor name because you don't even get to the Pax Romana period in the game. The game covers so calling it Pax Romana doesn't make any sense to me. Just zero sense. Call it something else. But as it stands, a very cool game that covers a lot of different things. Has a bunch of different chromey mechanics for different things, uh, different optional ways to have scenarios set up that I think is very interesting. So for me, it's like this. I'm so enamored with this game I haven't played yet that I've gone the extra effort to pull all the cool stuff together, all the extra scenarios. I have it all. I just need to get it out on the table and play it through. And haven't been in an ancients mode lately, right? A lot of World War One, World War Two, but really would like to get this on the table at some point and kind of show the systems and play through an extended, very long scenario and do it in some level of detail. That'd be, I think, pretty fun. So that's number two. Um, as bad as I feel about that game, it does not even compare to number one. Number one is GMT's Wilderness War, designed by Volko Runke. And this was one of the first games I purchased when I got into the hobby. One of the first ones. And when I got into the hobby early on, I was really, and I still am, into card-driven games. Card-driven games, like any game system, has its faults and it has its advantages, and it's got its cool factor. I was enamored with the CDG because it could be applied to so many different topics. And of course, we've seen, like, some people say CDGs are a fad. I don't know, maybe they are sometimes. But for some conflicts, it just works really well. Whether we're talking about Twilight Struggle or for the people, there are certain games in the CDG design set that just work really, really well for what they're trying to portray. And I am really interested in the French and Indian War. It's a topic that I've read a lot about. I've played in PC games in different formats. And I know that there are other French and Indian War games out there now that have come out since this game has come out. So it's not the most recent, but I've had it for so long. Like, it truly, I bought, I think I was like in the Twilight Struggle, and I bought Washington's War, and I liked that. And then I bought like 3 or 4 CDGs all at once from GMT, and this was one of them. And so this has sat on my shelf for a very long time, just never having been played because I didn't play it solitaire. I know there's the Stuka Joe method, but for many years I wasn't aware of that. And while I do play CDGs with my wife, and we've played different ones over the years, I never circled back to this one properly because there are nuances to the rules as it relates to the different types of terrain that is available between the wilderness and the mountains and all of that, cultivated hexes, the different types of units beyond just strength points. You have, regulars, you have provincials, you have Native American units, you have Corps de Bois, and all kinds of stuff that sort of took it to a level of complexity that I guess I wasn't willing to jump into with my gaming partner. And so because of that, as we played through other games, this one just kept getting out prioritized. But I feel terrible. I've literally owned this game for 6 years or more. It must be close to 6 years because when the third printing came out is when I bought it or something, like right as the third printing came out. So I've had it for almost 6 years probably. Maybe I'm getting my timelines wrong. I don't know. I just know that I've had this for a long time. And I've not played it. And not properly played it. I have set it up. I have moved counters around solo to see kind of how the game system worked, but not properly played it a full campaign or full game, solitaire or opposed, just has not happened. And it's a real shame because I like the period. I like the war as a subject itself is very interesting. I just really enjoy reading about how the wilderness had such an effect on the war. Why it's called Wilderness War. All of that is supremely interesting. And of course, I'm originally from some of the areas that matter in this time period in this war. So it's like, for me, it's just really interesting to know that like these armies are moving through territory that I'm somewhat familiar with. Of course, kind of a different world now, but you know what I mean. Just very very interesting. And to me, it's a shame, a true shame, a shelf of shame that I have not played this yet. So but yeah, that's it. That's the top five. You know, obviously there are plenty of other games that I own that I have not played yet that I would like to, but none of them make me feel the shame quite the same way that I do about the five that I talked here, and technically the honorable mentions of Der Weltkrieg. All of that, you know, you play what you can play, you play what you're in the mood for, you play kind of, you know, lots of different variables affect that. You know, people's interest in games in the comment section kind of steer me one way, or you know, the sort of on a whim you decide to pursue one game versus the other. But I would like to return to these, and if any of these games seem really interesting to you and you're watching this video and you're really interested to see these, let me know down in the comment section below, and that will maybe help me determine when to get these guys slotted in. I think the near-term schedule is kind of decided in my mind of what we'll cover, but would like to rotate these guys in at some point. The ones that make the most sense to do solitaire anyway. The card-driven games maybe less so, but certainly Pax Romana with Blitz, Balance of Powers, those are more likely to see coverage on the channel, and it's just a matter of figuring out when. So hope you found this video enjoyable, or at least interesting. If it's provoking some thoughts, let me know, and well, we'll take it from here. If I ever have a major change in this top five shelf of shame, then maybe I'll do another one. So at the very least, this is the shelf of shame video for 2021. If we knock some of these games out by playing them and really getting a feel for them and everything, then we'll replace those spots on the list with other stuff that I've got. We'll work our way through our shelf of shame all the way down to the bone as we can. So yeah. Hope you enjoyed, guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Keep on gaming.